How did Clive see himself? At his hearing in front of a committee in Parliament, Clive declared that he had shown admirable restraint after the Battle of Plassey. This is what he said. Consider the situation in which the victory at Plassey had placed me. A great prince was dependent on my pleasure. An opulent city lay at my mercy. Its richest bankers bid against each other for my smiles. I walked through vaults which were thrown open to me alone, piled on either hand with gold and jewels. Mr. Chairman, at this moment I stand astonished at my moderation. Company rule expands. If we analyze the process of annexation of Indian states by the East India Company from 1757 to 1857, certain key aspects emerge. The company rarely launched a direct military attack on an unknown territory. Instead, it used a variety of political, economic, and diplomatic methods to extend its influence before annexing an Indian kingdom. After the Battle of Buxar in 1764, the company appointed residents in Indian states. They were political or commercial agents, and their job was to serve and further the interests of the company. Through the residents, the company officials began interfering in the internal affairs of Indian states. They tried to decide who was to be the successor to the throne and who was to be appointed in administrative posts. Sometimes, the company forced the state into a subsidiary alliance. According to the terms of this alliance, Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed forces. They were to be protected by the company, but had to pay for the subsidiary forces that the company was supposed to maintain for the purpose of this protection. If the Indian rulers failed to make the payment, then part of their territory was taken away as penalty. For example, when Richard Wesley was Governor General from 1798 to 1805, the Nawab of Awadh was forced to give over half of his territory to the company in 1801 as he failed to pay for the subsidiary forces. Hyderabad was also forced to cede territories on similar grounds. What power did the resident have? This is what James Mill, the famous economist and political philosopher from Scotland, wrote about the resident appointed by the company. We place a resident who really is king of the country, whatever injunctions of non-interference he may act under. Injunction means instruction. As long as the prince acts in perfect subservience, subservience means submissiveness, and does what is agreeable to the residents, that is, to the British government, things go on quietly. They are managed without the resident appearing much in the administration of affairs. But when anything of a different nature happens, the moment the prince takes a course which the British government think wrong, then comes clashing and disturbance. The company restored to direct military confrontation when it saw a threat to its political or economic interests. This can be illustrated with the case of the southern Indian state of Mysore. Mysore had grown in strength under the leadership of powerful rulers like Hyder Ali, who ruled from 1761 to 1782, and his famous son Tipu Sultan, who ruled from 1782 to 1799. Mysore controlled the profitable trade of the Malabar coast, where the company purchased pepper and cardamom. In 1785, Tipu Sultan stopped the export of sandalwood, pepper and cardamom through the ports of his kingdom and disallowed local merchants from relationship with the French in India and modernized his army with their help. The British were furious. They saw Hyder and Tipu as ambitious, arrogant, and dangerous rulers who had to be controlled and crushed. 4 wars were fought with Mysore, 1767 to 69, in 1780 to 84, 1790 to 92, and in 1799. Only in the last, the Battle of Srirangapattam, did the company ultimately win a victory. Tipu Sultan was killed defending his capital, Srirangapattam. Mysore was placed under the former ruling dynasty of the Vadiyars, and a subsidiary alliance was imposed on the state. The legend of Tipu. Kings are often surrounded by legends and their powers glorified through folklore. Here is a legend about Tipu Sultan, who became the ruler of Mysore in 1782. It is said that once he went hunting in the forest with a French friend. There he came face to face with a tiger. His gun did not work and his dagger fell to the ground. He battled with the tiger, unarmed, till he managed to reach down and pick up the dagger. Finally, he was able to kill the tiger in the battle. After this, he came to be known as the Tiger of Mysore. He had the image of the tiger on his flag. War with the Marathas. From the late 18th century, the company also sought to curb and eventually destroy Maratha power. With their defeat in the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761, the Marathas' dream of ruling from Delhi was shattered. They were divided into many states under different chiefs, that is Sardars, belonging to dynasties such as Sindhya, Holkar, Gaikwad, and Bhosle. These chiefs were held together in a confederacy under a Peshwa or a principal minister who became its effective military and administrative head based in Pune. Mahatji Sindhya and Nana Farnis were 2 famous Maratha soldiers and statesmen of the late 18th century. The Marathas were subdued in a series of wars. In the first war, that ended in 1782 with the Treaty of Salbai, there was no clear victor. The Second Anglo-Maratha War, from 1803 to 1805, was fought on different fronts, resulting in the British gaining Orissa and the territories north of the Yamuna River, including Agra and Delhi. Finally, the Third Anglo-Maratha War of 1817 to 1819 crushed Maratha power. The Peshwa was removed and sent away to Bittur near Kanpur with a pension. The company now had complete control over the territories south of the Vindhyas. The claim to paramountcy. It is clear from the above that from the early 19th century, the company pursued an aggressive policy of territorial expansion. Under Lord Hastings, Governor-General from 1813 to 1823, a new policy of paramountcy was initiated. Now the company claimed that its authority was paramount or supreme, hence its power was greater than that of Indian states. In order to protect its interests, it was justified in annexing or threatening to annex any Indian kingdom. This view continued to guide later British policies as well. This process, however, did not go unchallenged. For example, when the British tried to annex the small state of Kittur in Karnataka today, Rani Chennamma took to arms and led an anti-British resistance movement. She was arrested in 1824 and died in prison in 1829. But Rayana, a poor chowkidar of Sangoli in Kittur, carried on the resistance. With popular support, he destroyed many British camps and records. He was caught and hanged by the British in 1830. You will read more about several cases of resistance later in the book. In the late 1830s, the East India Company became worried about Russia. It imagined that Russia might expand across Asia and enter India from the northwest. Driven by this fear, the British now wanted to secure their control over the northwest. They fought a prolonged war with Afghanistan between 1838 and 1842 and established indirect company rule there. Sindh was taken over in 1843. Next in line was Punjab. But the presence of Maharaja Ranjit Singh held back the company. After his death in 1839, 2 prolonged wars were fought with the Sikh kingdom. Ultimately, in 1849, Punjab was annexed. Subscribe to my channel. Click on bell icon to get notification about new video.